Hello viewers, my name is Femi Boyede and I welcome you to yet another episode on Export Digest, the program that periscopes the non-oil export sector and advises on Nigeria's export business environment and how this can positively change the country's economic fortunes and improve the citizens' living standards. The focus of today's and the next few episodes of this program will be rebuilding Nigeria's export industry, the strategic imperative. One of the main reasons why Africa was so attractive to the colonists in the olden days was the abundant availability of natural resources, both agricultural and minerals. Nigeria's economy was, in fact, built on her granite pyramids in the north, cocoa plantations in the west, rubber in the Midwest, and oil palm in the southeast. Indeed, economic activities were never lacking. Textile milling and cotton ginning thrived abundantly in the north, providing direct employment for over 1 million active Nigerians. The rubber plantations resulted in the development of rubber estates that provided the main raw materials for a thriving tire industry. The first cocoa processing factory in Africa then was established in Ikeja and started to churn out Ovaltine, Vitalo, and other beverages. Between them, Michelin and Dunlop employed over 10,000 workers across Nigeria, while it became easy to start up the first indigenous tire manufacturing factory in Nigeria. In Ijebu-Ode, then you had Odutola, the Lux Roaster, bicycle tire. Can you remember that? Without knowing that she had crude oil under her soil, Nigeria remained self-sufficient in food and became a net exporter of some of her staples. The tallest building in West Africa then, the 25-story Cocoa House in Ibadan, was built from royalties and grading fees only of cocoa. But as the country progressed, there came a time in the early to middle 80s when Nigeria did not need to import soaps and detergents, as soap making emerged on the scene and began to create its own employment and economic profits. I personally knew 2 full-time medical doctors who manufactured bar soaps in their garages somewhere in Abuja. What has happened to those pyramids? Where are those factories? What happened to the Nigerians that they employed? As must be obvious now, and if you're just joining us, on this episode of Export Digest, we are embarking on a journey down memory lane with a view to building a non-oil export-driven economy by attempting to revamp the past.
When I was a boy, the whole country relied on agri. The granite pyramids in the north, the cocoa here, and products from agriculture was the main thing that was making money for Nigeria, including coffee. Nobody is talking about coffee now, and coffee is selling all over. Serious countries are making good money out of coffee. We have lands. Our land is still fertile, but we are so lazy. We are so backward thinking that we don't really think about going into agriculture. Thank God the present government is talking about agri, because when Obama won the election for the first time, he said he was going to encourage vehicles that will not be using fuel again, those electric cars. And before America could manufacture one, Japan dished out about 5,000 cars. In England now there are spots, points where you can quickly charge your batteries like you are buying fuel. Is the same amount of time, the same number of minutes you will use in the filling station is what you use in charging your battery by the roadside when you discover that it is going down. So it's like the crude oil is no more the vogue. What we have made so far in crude oil is being wasted and vandalized, is being stolen. And my take on that is that on the crude oil is that some people are saying, okay, don't let us touch our agricultural inputs. Let us all dip our hands into whatever comes out of and when nothing is coming from crude oil again, then we'll all go back to our agricultural this thing. But like go to any farm where cocoa is being produced in those days now. The cocoas are so old, nobody is thinking of planting new ones. And we have cocoa research institutes here, and they deliberately, quote me anywhere, deliberately the Federal Ministry of Agric was kind of doing divide and rule. They didn't give them money for researches that would have profited Cocoa Research Institute. They were doing divide and rule. They would deliberately cause confusion so that there won't be progress. Cocoa Research, IITA is here, Institute of Tropical Agric for. If they had relied on the federal government to do their researches, they won't get anywhere. But because their money, their resources come from donors from all over the world. Those millionaires are the ones sponsoring. They have their names as you are entering into IITA. If it had been a federal government of Nigerian project, it would have been dead long before now. Dead long before now, because we don't have maintenance culture at all. Like I said, some people are waiting for the very first place where oil was discovered in Nigeria has gone dry now. It's gone dry now. And that tells you that other wells will start going dry again. Now, if we are talking about agric, even if this present government plans well and agric products are coming out, our roads are not good. Our road networks are so bad that any vehicle that is coming from the north with, let's say, watermelon, you see them on the express breaking down, having accidents and things like that. In a serious environment, let's take UK for instance. They know their land cannot produce anything, so they invested in other countries. Part of their investment was what brought crisis to Zimbabwe, when Mugabe said, no, you white men should go, my people will start. But then they invested in agric, and that is why you see all manners of fruits around the year.
In its heydays, Nigeria's textile industry was touted to be the second largest employer of labor outside government. The Aswani market in Lagos was actually a hub for a thriving trade in Nigeria's rejected textiles and byproducts. In the far north, hundreds of trucks and trailers were loaded daily with Nigeria's Atampa or Ankara, depending on where you live, and sold lucratively across our borders. An exploratory journey to the Okeani and Balogun markets in Lagos affirmed the daily conduct of huge sales of Nigeria's manufactured products that are ferried to neighboring West African countries without any threat, as the trade is not captured.
Most of this informal exports is unaccounted for in terms of the revenue that comes in, so we can't track it. So that's why at the end of the day, it looks as if our non-oil products are not moving out. They are moving out, but most of them are moving out informally. It's not documented. So what we are trying to do is to see how we can bring them together. Most times we do workshops, we sensitize them, we create awareness program, we talk to them, we even, in our zonal offices, they reach out to them. In fact, council also done a detailed report regarding this informal export and the huge potential that is there, that we can capture these people and let them begin to formalize their export. At the end of the day, to be of big benefits to the country in terms of that foreign exchange that we are looking for.
For a country whose economy is on the verge of collapse, the only solution seems to be for a spirited attempt at reviving the industries and activities that used to and still have the capacity to earn considerable foreign exchange.
Nigeria has been a country that lived and earned its resources from the agricultural sector. In the First Republic, pre-independent and post-independent, talking about the First Republic, the old Nigeria knew and had best was agricultural products, and we are talking about the granite pyramids of Kano. We're talking about the cocoa resources in the West. We're talking about the palm produce and the palm oil in the East and other products. Now, these were left to rot away with the advent of oil. Now, we are talking about the prospects. Of course, the prices are very, very high because right now, Nigeria population has grown, and with growth in population, if agriculture is given the pride of place that is supposed to deserve, then with the increase in population, more people will be into agriculture. And today, the world, as ever before, has need for raw material for finished goods. And raw material, agriculture plays about 70%, has a 70% input into raw material. What do you need? If you are talking about chocolate and other things, you need the cocoa. If you are talking about textile material, you need something from agriculture. If you are talking about leather, footwear, tires, and all whatnot, you need it from agriculture. So the potentials are very, very high. The lands are good. We still have a good land. The weather is perfect, and so everything works to our favor. So the potentials are there, and the market, the appetite for agricultural products in the market, in the world market, is inelastic. Today, many countries are taking advantage of some of the legislation from the West, like the AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunity Act of by the American government, to export agricultural products to America, to export partly finished goods to America, to export finished goods to America. And unfortunately, Nigeria has not been able to take advantage of that legislation, and so we are lagging behind because everybody seems to be lazy and talking about oil, oil, oil. Now the rest is done on us. So agric has a potential. The land is there. Malaysia, that is the world renowned producer of oil today, took their seedlings from Africa, from Nigeria. And so, what can we not do? And it's a big revenue earner. Yes, you are exporting raw products. We can also process them into middle-level products and export, rather than exporting it raw and make more money from it. So right now, there is potential, and the potentials are great. The population is there, the weather is there, the land is there. What else do we need? We just to get our thinking caps together and move into the land, back to the government legislation, back to with funding, either from domestic or from international. And Nigeria is set to be towards a part of greatness again.
No nation depends on one source of revenue if it hopes to create a sustainable economic development and a future for its citizenry. Countries like Malaysia, India, Singapore, and even Kenya have all grown and sustained their respective economies through non-oil exports. Our vision at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is to promote non-oil export as the key driver of the Nigerian economy through strategic diversification of the economy from oil to non-oil. NEPC is strategically positioned to do more through our action plan on 13 national strategic export products, Zero Oil Plan, the One State, One Product Initiative, and the Nigeria Diaspora Export Program, which are needed pillars of success in our National Industrial Revolution Plan. Invest in non-oil export business and reap bountifully. Export Business guarantees a prosperous future through inclusive wealth and job creation. Join hands to make Nigeria one of the top 20 largest economies in the world. Export Business, tomorrow's business. For further inquiries, visit our website on www.nepc.gov.ng.
In the next episodes, Export Digest will be featuring key players in some of the key sectors that can restore the economic glory through non-oil exports. I encourage you to keep faith with us as the following episodes promise to be quite explosive. This segment is brought to you by the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, a trade support institution and sponsorship partner of Export Digest. As you know now, CAC is the agency that regulates Nigeria's business environments and provides the legal entity for operations. Today we'll be taking a look at another aspect of that agency's operations.
The provision on the listing is clearly provided in Section 525 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. The provision says, where the Commission has reasonable cause to believe that a company is not carrying on business or in operation. The distinction between carrying on business or operation is made between a company that is commercially oriented and a company limited by guarantee. So, where the Commission has reason to believe that a company is not carrying on business or in operation, that it has to send a letter to that company inquiring whether that company is actually carrying on business. If a confirmation is received from the company that it is carrying on business, then the Commission will close the matter. But if no confirmation is received, or if the company confirms that it is not carrying on business, then the Commission will now delist it and issue a notice to that effect. If no response is received, the law requires the Commission to send a second letter to the company, informing it of the first letter and giving it final notice that if no response is received to this second letter within 3 months, then the Commission will proceed to strike off the name. You could see from this discussion that the whole essence is to determine, to ensure that only companies that are active remain in the database. It is, people register all sorts of companies, some for one transaction, some do multiple companies to give them advantage when they are bidding for a project. Immediately after the project is lost or won, they forget about these companies. So we have hundreds of thousands of companies in our database that are not necessarily active. And the way we know whether a company is active or not is from the filing of annual returns. We have records of companies that are filing, we have records of companies that are not filing. Some out of ignorance, because we expect that after the registration of a company, the agent that is engaged to register that company, that is either the lawyer, the chartered accountant, or chartered secretary, will advise the directors of their obligations under the law. They may not necessarily know what is required of them. He will advise them that, look, your company has been registered. You are required within the first 18 months to file your first annual return, and subsequently every year. But most of the agents don't do that. Yeah. So we have taken it upon ourselves to issue a checklist of the various requirements expected of the company after incorporation. We issue it together with the certificate of incorporation. So when you pick your certificate, that requirement is attached. So at a glance, you know what is required of you. When any changes is made on the composition of the board of directors, we are required to notify the Commission. When you change your address, you are required to notify the Commission. You are required to file your annual returns within 18 months for the first annual return. While for the subsequent annual returns, you have an interval of 15 months from the last return. But most companies don't do that. And for the fact that some of these companies change their first address without notifying the Commission, you will find that even when you send these letters, you end up, of course they will return it to you because the companies could not be located at their last known address. Although with our new portal we have provision for email address and phone number, When the companies, an Allied Matters Act was promulgated in 1990, there was no email.
Yes.
So we have amended our forms to make provision for email, so that if we could not get you on your physical address, we will now send email to the directors, reminding them of their obligations to file these returns. So the whole essence of these returns is to inform the Commission and the public about the position of this company as a going concern, and for the Commission to reckon with any changes that have occurred within the period. Although the directors are still required to file changes as to the composition of the board, when they increase their share capital, when they change their address. The returns have to be filed, and you have to give information on the people that served on the board at that particular period, the shareholding, the turnover of the company, its net assets, and depending on whether the company is a small company or a big company, you may be required to submit your balance sheet and profit and loss account. Small companies are not strictly required to file their balance sheet and profit and loss account. What they submit is certification for a small company. And a small company is a company that has a turnover, by our own law, a turnover of not more than 2 million, net asset of no more than 1 million, and whose board comprised of Nigerians, and it has no government participation. And these directors among themselves must hold at least 51% of the shares. Yeah. So that's a small company within the definition of CAMA. For such a company, all that they are required to do is to fill in the form with information on the directors, the shareholding, the net assets, the turnover. They are not required to submit a balance sheet and profit and loss account. Then they will do a certification for a small company, stating all those things, that it's a small company, it's a private company, its turnover is not more than this, its net asset is not more than that the directors hold at least 51%, that they are all Nigerians, and what have you. Once that certification is attached, we'll accept it without the need for them to submit any audited financial statement. It's companies other than small companies that are required by law to submit profit and loss account, which has to be properly audited, and the endorsement, the certification of the auditor has to accompany that account. Companies that have not been doing that, we regard them as dormant companies, and they are susceptible to be delisted. But as I've said, before we struck off the name of any company, we give them notice. And what we have done recently is to go further to put all the names of these companies on our website. Hitherto, we had to publish the name. The first set that were struck off, we had to publish these names in 2 national papers. But because of the cost of publication, we decided to put all the names in the website so that people can check to see whether the company falls into that category. But my own idea is you don't even have to check. If you are sure you have filed your returns, you don't have any cost to worry. But even if you have not been filing your returns, whether the name, your own company name is there or not, you better come and file the returns, because the next batch, your company may be in the next batch.
And now to the question of the day. As usual, the first correct entry gets an exclusive prize courtesy Koinonia Ventures Limited. Thank you immensely for joining us on Export Digest today. We hope you picked 1 or 2 possibilities about export business in Nigeria, as we promise to always ensure that we enlighten and educate you in all ramifications as it concerns non-oil exports. You can watch this particular episode and others before it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Export Digest. We would also love to hear from you as we work towards making Nigeria a viable exporting nation. Our channels of communication are open and now showing on your screen. Many thanks to our sponsors for their continued contributions to the development of Export Digest. Join us same time on this same channel next week for another interesting package of Export Digest. I am Femi Boyede. See you then, and God bless Nigeria.